One of the earliest and best examples of video game turned movie franchise, Mortal Kombat is getting a brand new reboot this year, complete with physics-defying fatalities. But none of it would exist without the original film paving the way first. So, to celebrate that legendary B-movie about a bunch of warriors sent to die fighting on an island, here are 7 things you didn't know about 1995's Mortal Kombat. Probably. Two different women almost starred as Sonya Blade before Bridget Wilson-Sampras took on the role of the tough-as-nails Special Forces officer. The first was Kathleen McClellan, who was the third runner-up for the 1988 Miss Teen USA, and the second was Cameron Diaz. Both women were injured while training for the film, and Bridget Wilson-Sampras ultimately took the role and ended up doing all of her own stunts, as she had done a few years earlier on Last Action Hero. Bridget also got injured during her training in the film when she partially dislocated her shoulder during a fight, but the crew was able to pop it back in so she could get back into action. A real tough guy move made infamous by Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon, and more recently, King Kong.
Finish him!
Steven Spielberg, director of some of the most iconic movies of all time, you might have heard of him, isn't exactly the kind of guy you'd expect to see hanging around on set for a modestly budgeted, triumphantly B-tiered video game movie. But he actually does make a cameo in Mortal Kombat. Well, sort of. Spielberg was apparently a huge fan of the Mortal Kombat video game franchise and was set to cameo in the film as the director of the movie Johnny Cage was filming. However, scheduling conflicts arose and Spielberg was replaced by a guy who looks and dresses like Spielberg, but definitely isn't Spielberg. Between executive producing the live-action Flintstones and Casper movies, plus a million other projects around 1994 when Mortal Kombat was being filmed, it's hard to pinpoint exactly why the legendary director wasn't able to make it to the fake Johnny Cage movie set within the real Mortal Kombat movie set, which is a shame since those fight extras needed all the direction they could get.
This is where you fall down. Where do you get these guys?
Speaking of famous Hollywood icons that tried and failed to make it to the Mortal Kombat movie set, Mission Impossible star Tom Cruise was originally considered for the role of Johnny Cage, as were Johnny Depp, Gary Daniels, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, who took the role of Guile in the live-action Street Fighter movie instead. Lyndon Ashby ended up being cast as the cocky, sunglass-tipping action movie star Johnny Cage, but that didn't stop Tom Cruise from trying and failing to visit the production of the Mortal Kombat movie. As legend has it, which is also another Tom Cruise movie, one of the medics working on the movie was also really into security and would often turn away uninvited guests from visiting the set. One of those guests, however, was Tom Cruise, who was working on a movie at an adjacent lot and came by to see what they were shooting before being told by the medic, "I don't care who you are, you're not in this movie, get out of here." Or as Scorpion would say, "Get out of here." Wait, that's what Scorpion says, right? The 2021 Mortal Kombat movie is rated R and was planned to be bloody, violent, and packed with fatalities from the get-go. But the 1995 film had to settle for a PG-13 rating in order to sell as many tickets as possible to the game's target demographic: teenagers. This meant graphic violence, strong language, and, yes, fatalities had to be limited to appease the ratings board. According to the Motion Picture Association's film rating system, showing a human death on screen resulted in an automatic R rating for a movie. That said, the film comes really close to showing a human death several times, including in its final fight where Liu Kang knocks Shang Tsung into a pit of spikes where he definitely gets impaled to death, even if you don't specifically see that happen. It's happening. It's there. Next thing. One of the film's biggest villains, literally, was Goro, a four-armed, 12-fingered beast warrior sporting a ponytail and loincloth. The 90s were weird, and I will not be explaining any further. Anyway, including Goro in the movie wasn't easy, as the filmmakers settled on creating the character by using a 125-pound suit worn by stuntman Tom Woodruff, complete with roughly a dozen puppeteers controlling the animatronic actions of the suit's top half. The costume was outfitted with air and water tubes to keep the stuntman feeling fresh and hydrated in between takes, especially during the long shoots where the costume would stop working entirely. The costume never made it to Thailand, where the bulk of the filming was being shot, out of fear it would not survive the trip. Instead, it lived on a soundstage in LA for the entire production and all of Goro's fight scenes. But good news for any modern stuntmen who fear they'll get stuck working inside a sweaty, heavy robot monster costume that constantly breaks, Goro in the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie is entirely CG. Next thing. It's impossible to separate the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie from the film's unlikeliest of breakout stars. Its relentlessly catchy, undeniable bop of a theme song that paired hard-hitting dance music with grainy Mortal Kombat audio samples, frequently building up to a guy yelling the title of the film. It's a song so ingrained in the film's fandom that it's making a return for the new movie as well. Not only did the soundtrack serve the movie perfectly as pulse-pounding fighting music, but it also cracked the Billboard Top 10 charts, became the first platinum EDM record, and won a Guinness World Record. However, this iconic soundtrack almost didn't exist as we know it today. The film's producers wanted electronic music from the start and brought the idea to Sony and Virgin Records, two record labels that repeatedly shot down the idea, suggesting that songs from artists like Van Halen and Tina Turner be used instead. And so the filmmakers turned to a music producer named George S. Clinton, not to be confused with Parliament Funkadelic's George Clinton, who stuck with the original pitch and made a dance album hit that still holds up today. Although, I would be interested in Parliament Funkadelic's cover of the Mortal Kombat song. Last thing. Reptile, a green palette-swapped version of Scorpion and Sub-Zero with unique attributes and moves, was the first secret character ever to appear in a fighting video game. Unlocked if a player can pull off a double flawless victory and a fatality all without blocking. His full movie appearance was even trickier to unlock, however, as Reptile wasn't initially planned to appear in his green ninja uniform until focus groups saw an early cut of the movie and noted that it needed more fights. Reshoots for the film went underway to extend two of the fights in the film, Johnny Cage vs. Scorpion, adding the section where both characters fall through a portal and end up fighting on a bunch of dilapidated scaffolding, and the Liu Kang vs. Reptile fight, where Reptile possesses a statue and turns into his human form before ultimately losing to Liu Kang and exploding into a pile of bugs, which aren't reptiles. I looked it up to double check. It didn't make sense then, and it doesn't make sense now, but it's fun as hell, you guys, and really, that's all that matters. And that was 7 things you probably didn't know about the original Mortal Kombat movie. Who is your favorite Mortal Kombat combatant? Got a favorite scene from the movie you want to discuss? Know a word you think looks cooler with a K swapped into it? I've been saying K's instead of C's this whole time, by the way. Test your might, sound off in the comments below. Thank you for clicking on this video. That's 2 more K's I snuck in there. And be sure to subscribe to IGN Movies and TV for more things you didn't know. With a K.